Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, proudly brought to you by Pat and George from Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams, back on deck after a little voyage overseas for back into the game. And Spy, very excited about it. How have you been, mate?
Good, mate. Couple of weeks off. Actually, I'm finally back. Not in Supercoach, but physically I've been crook. It's
been a rough physical run for you, hasn't it?
I finally figured it out. I had the kissing disease, glandular fever, and I didn't get to kiss any good sorts. So, what's the point of that?
Nothing out of it.
Yeah, I don't know how I got it, but that's why I've been so run down for bloody about 2 months. But
You've also just low-key brushed your wife.
Well, I know she didn't have it, so it can't be her.
But you said you didn't kiss any good sorts during that period. Just don't let her listen to this bit.
Yeah, God knows just listen to the SC Playbook podcast.
I'm not showing her tonight. Supercoach, I have found a little bit of form in Supercoach as well. A couple of weeks ago, got down to 13k, and it was just a bit of a crisis meeting. Had a truth session with the boys. We're back up to 11. We're just starting to go up again, but yeah, realistically, just a tough year, boys. Has gone my way. Probably my worst ever season by some margin, but there's some time to rectify it. And on the flip side, the actual rugby league is as good as I can ever remember in terms of like top 8, style of footy, and Sean Bloody Johnson and the Warriors. So I'm really getting around that. They're at opposite ends. My Supercoach season's here, rugby league season's up here, except for our poor mate on the right here. We'll get
it's only going to get better as well with the bye period finally behind us. Also with us, Quantum CEO, Bulldogs director, Adam Driussi. Ads, how are you, mate? Also been voyaging.
Yes, no, good to be back. Had a good couple of weeks in the US and UK, so same time as you. So that's all good. My Supercoach side has gone better while I've been away. So
you are humming.
Yeah, no, I'm going all right the last few weeks. So it's come from an embarrassingly low 30,000 to be 8,000. So I've overtaken Spy.
Straight past
100
me.
points of you. So it's less embarrassing, I would say, rather than particularly good. But yeah. And unlike Spy, I'm finding the season difficult because the Dogs have struggled the last few weeks. So that's been tough. But we'll be back. We just got long-term.
See, I came back with the philosophy of don't Europe and Supercoach, mate, but unfortunately you've sort of proven that wrong because you've gone on a tear. The Stallions, on the other hand, oh, Jesus Christ, mate, we're in a rut. We're 10.50 on the weekend. I dropped from when I left. There were 3 rounds of footy from 23 or 400 or something to 7,200 overall, so I feel like the Spy. Like I'm starting to understand what it's like to be in your shoes, Spy.
It's called the free fall, mate.
Yeah.
Rectify it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so the weekend was just, I didn't own Kalen Ponga. Sitting at the airport at Heathrow in London, watching that game live, and KP had 2 try assists in the first 10 minutes. When he finished that game on 137 or I thought it was a miracle. I thought we were going to see the Supercoach record.
Now, I feel like 30 minutes after that, if you were still watching, they didn't go back to that left edge and just run the same play. I'm like, just do it. You'll just score again. You just keep scoring. And they were just mixing things up a little bit. He honestly could have gone 250. Hey?
He could. I couldn't understand why they just didn't keep giving it to Kalen. Every time they did, he
just run that shape, left edge, give it to him. 3-on-2 every time. They had 3-on-1 the first time.
They couldn't stop it.
Yeah, anyway.
If I boarded that plane 10 minutes into that game, a 30-hour long-haul flight, not knowing the score and Ponga being on 60 after 8 minutes, I would have just been in tears the whole time. The flight attendants would have been sitting there giving me boxes of tissues. Thankfully it didn't, and anyway, 137. So did that. I then decided, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a bit of a gamble. I won't skip a Nico Hines. Thought the Warriors would do a job on the Sharkies. He got about 75s. Thought happy days. Go Mitch Moses. 41 against the Gold Coast Titans. So anyway, I did this. So I dropped 3,300 spots on the weekend. Genuinely gutted about it, but I did get Fafita back in, Munster back in. Keep saying it. Side set up well, but
you sound flat, mate. You do.
I am flat.
I feel like as a coach, we need to pump up your confidence, mate. You sound like you're taking it hard.
Yeah, well, fortunately,
we'll get you back.
Fortunately,
how many trades you got left?
I've got 8, and I've only got about 2 people I need back into my team.
Okay, well,
so I'm happy. And one of my strike weapons, who has been ready to go big all season, but doesn't seem to want to play any games for me, Brian Toto. He's going to go 200 plus for me this weekend, and it'll be back to the top 3 2,000. We'll get to that shortly. Today's show, key takes from Team List Tuesday, stacks and stacks of guns back in. One gun gone out. Topic for the week. We're going to go pod hunting, point of difference hunting, go through Adam's true player ownership stats and go through each position, the low ownership players that we think are worth a little bit of a sniff if you're trying to make up some ground. Hot topics for the week, as always. Nico Hines, potential anti-pod opportunity on Nico this week. I know Walsh is looking at it. I know the Spy is looking at it. Our round 20 on trade and skipper plans, few listener questions, then wrap it up. Before we get into it, though, a few shout-outs. Firstly, Maxi Bryden, hosted in my absence. One of the great men of the planet, great men of the Supercoach circles, cricket, NRL, gun, Spy. He killed it. He brained it while I was away.
Did well, mate. If you go back and listen to the first 1 minute of the first show, he was bloody nervous and he stuttered a bit. As soon as he got through that first minute, off and flying. And by week 2, he was bringing out games and all these sort of bracketology stuff. It was good fun. It was good fun.
Yeah, if we had a boss, I'd be out, he'd be in, but fortunately we don't, so Maxi's out. Shout out number 2, everyone who chipped in to SC Playbook while I was away, Desi Creek, Charlie Dad's behind the scenes, he's our SC Playbook AFL pin-up boy there, Matty the Water Boy, Guru, everyone chipped in bits and pieces, so thankful to all of them to make sure SC Playbook run normally. And shout out number 3, Popper Blackhead, coached by Brett, a long-time SC Playbook subscriber, won the week overall this week by 27 points. He absolutely shattered him. So good on...
Yeah, good.
Yes. On your Brett, good stuff, mate. And he's very much on the charge. I think Brett beat me by 600 points this week.
Close.
Yeah, it was tight.
His side looked unreal. When I saw that side of one, I was like, wow, what a...
I got a random stat for you, boys. Speaking of crazy stuff, I've mentioned a few times I sort of casually do AFL Supercoach because I just love my sport. I just want in. I'm nearly in front of my NRL side in Supercoach AFL.
Kidding.
Yeah. It's very tight. So in NRL, I'm just looking now, I'm top 10%. In AFL, I'm top 13%, and my side's flying.
Fuck.
It's just the weirdest year ever for me. I don't know what's happening, but I might focus on that for the back end.
Well, on that, so Charlie, who runs the SC Playbook AFL stuff, gives me a hand with a lot of the NRL stuff as well. AFL diehard, knows nothing about NRL, but he's just sort of putting all the stories together for the contributors. I haven't got the update from him recently, but he was sitting at like 300th or something overall in the NRL. So
Unreal,
that made me feel a little bit better, I think.
You think? I don't know.
Anyway. Lucky last, the SC Playbook Unlimited Group, $1,000 to the winner of that end of season. Raging Pole, still sitting 3rd overall. He's been right up there for a long time now, so sitting pretty. And, mate, see if you can hold on. Price drop, SC Playbook, 7 rounds left in the season. The NRL subscription package down to $20 for the remainder of the NRL season. So if you've considered getting involved in it before but didn't want to sort of pay up, now's a chance. Dirt cheap for the rest of the season, then you might want to do it in the future. Access to extra premium articles each and every week on site. Access to our subscriber-only WhatsApp chat. Has a stack of different threads from team advice to contributor-only chats where we drop our updated trade skippers as the week goes on. The late mail thread while I was overseas was absolute gold. Kept me going over there. Q&A podcast, all sorts of different things. So to get involved in that, head to scplaybook.com.au, find the subscription tab in the menu. Fellas, let's get stuck into Team List Tuesday for round 21. Firstly, at the Bunnies, they are back. They're stacked. So Latrell Mitchell returns, Jai Arrow, Campbell Graham, all the Origin boys. We'll get to more of them later. The big one, though, Spy, Tyrone Munro, I believe he was the second most traded in player this week prior to Team List. 200k, negative 88 or so break even. Looked that perfect downgrade to free up cash and have a playable CT dub. Out. So I do believe it is only quite a minor niggle. Matty the Waterboy, the Bunnies' #1 fan, has informed us prior to the show. So not panic stations by any means, but certainly a blow for those looking to free up cash. Could you still go to him?
I think I'd still do it anyway. I brought him the bye week for his 90-odd. He looks incredible. Like, honestly, it's as excited as I've been for a bloke for a while. His hands, the time of his runs. Like we saw early in the season with Isaac Thompson, who I owned and thought outside Latrell and Cody, how good. He just didn't have that ability that great wingers do, like Alex Johnson, to time your run, hit it at speed and just finish those tries. Munro is all time at that. His times that he's quick. His hands are unreal. In short, I think I'd just probably grab him. If you need to downgrade someone this week, just grab him anyway. The run-up is coming. It's phenomenal, and you just hope he comes back from that injury. I don't think there's anyone else I'd really want at that price. So, but gee, I'm high on Munro. Ooh.
We'll touch on a couple of extra ones. There's actually the next biggest news of the week, and this is significant. Sifa Talakai, Sharkies with some mixed form, but that left edge has just been absolutely horrific defensively. Attacking-wise, one of the best in the competition, but defensively, changes had to be made, and credit to Fitzy, he has made them. Talakai benched. Matty Moylan has been, well, the wording wasn't dropped, but you sort of get the idea that was probably it. Might be a niggling injury, I don't know, not confirmed. But Connor Tracy into centre adds a blow for Talakai owners. However, the Sharkies do have a really tough run. He's at 620k, so there's still value there. So not the end of the world, but far from ideal at this stage of the year.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't own him, so I don't have to burn a trade. Because I reckon at this point of the season, trades are going to be just gold.
Yeah.
Just with buys and everything at the end of the year. And there's always injuries. So if you've got Talakai, you're just going to have to sell him now.
I think you have to, because if
so there's one trade gone for some teams. So
could plummet cash, and all of a sudden he's 400k. And
you just can't have those dollars on the bench. And who knows when he comes on. But, yeah, disappointing for... I think Desi's got him, doesn't he? So disappointing for... Desi and other owners?
Desi, Guru's got him as well.
I wonder if there's a chance he starts left back row. Maybe. Yeah. The game's Sunday.
The only thing it'd be, like, it's for defensive issues, so you're changing
But
much.
I think, well, from what I saw last week,
one-on-one out wide
he just
by
got skinned a bit last week just with pure pace around his outside. So if he's in the back row, that doesn't become a factor.
Yeah.
Maybe he does end up plugging that hole for Teague Wilton.
Wouldn't shock.
That'd
be that could be. Imagine if he's been a back rower.
Yeah, so maybe if you can just hold on there, if you can do it this weekend, do so.
Connor Tracy in. I just think he's a great Supercoach player, Connor Tracy, but just with that Sharkies run and sort of question marks and job security, probably a bit of an issue there.
Pretty handy additions, just quietly bringing in Trindle and Tracy.
Far
Man, they could be could very well be a better side.
Yeah. Stacks of guns back in, as mentioned. Reece Walsh has served his 3-game suspension. He's back in for the Broncos, as is Payne Haas. AJ Brimson back after arrest for the Titans. Tino Fasua-Malawi, he is gone for 3 weeks. Last week, I was tinkering with the idea, having 18 players at the time, that if Dave Fafita was rested, I was short of front row, which worked out fine, but I may have ended up flipping to Tino to plug the front row gap. If that happened and then he got the 3-week ban, I wouldn't be. I would have stayed overseas.
I was the same. If Fafita didn't get named Sunday night, just for resting purposes, I was going to bring in Tino. Thank goodness.
He started on the bench, so that probably would have put you off. Although you would have to do it pre-flight or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah, it would have been really screwed.
But for any of the poor buggers that did bring him in last week, 2 trades at this time of year when we're running so slim.
Yeah, it's grim.
3-game ban ads. Hold or trade?
Oh, trade.
Yeah.
Just too much money for 3 weeks out of how many we got left? 8?
7.
Oh, even easier.
Yeah. And like Sifa Talakai, the bonus there is that he's over 800k. So they've both been, this happened to both of them at close to max price. So it's not ideal, but at least you're getting a lot of value for the trade. So
if you're really short on trades, like really struggling 4 or less or something, and you can cover him, then you might have to hold him. That's
the issue
only
is
thing.
that 2 popular front rowers in Adam Fonua-Blake, Tohu Harris, both have the bye for the Warriors next week. So
yeah,
I reckon there are probably a few out there running Tino and say like Tohu combinations.
And you simply can't cover, in which case you have to sell.
James Tedesco back for the Roosters. Joey Manu moves back to centre there. Regan Campbell-Gillard, 3-game ban out for Parramatta. We'll have a little bit of a chat about the Eels later on because they become a very interesting side with a tough draw and a bye later on in the season. Nathan Cleary back for the Penrith Panthers. Boys, let's get to him now. Adds a matchup against your Doggies who injury-riddled this season. It's been a tough one. Should have some points in this one.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty obvious captaincy choice, isn't he? Like, I take out, obviously, my bias towards the Bulldogs. Penrith at Penrith, 5 Origin players coming back fresh as daisies, including him. We've got more blokes out. Like, it looks like a very tough matchup, and Cleary, you would not want to... It would be a very tough watch if you didn't have him as captain, I would think.
I wouldn't watch.
Yeah.
And, like, it could dead set be...
Don't say anything silly.
No, well, I won't do it. It could, no, I wasn't going to say score, but it could be the Bunnies or like the Broncos or one of these competition heavyweights. They said Penrith, full strength, back at home, post-origin, Cleary back. It wouldn't matter. You'd still be terrified.
Yeah.
Spy, I think you just have to find a way, don't you?
Yeah, there's got a bit of half-to-back chat coming up soon.
We'll get to Shawley.
But in terms of Cleary, like the only reason you wouldn't get him is if, say, you're running like a SJ Hines or something, and you're really low on trades. The absolute risk play is maybe he doesn't goal kick, maybe he redoes his hemi. There are reasons but they're very minute. They don't cover off on what he could score. So for me, he's coming straight into my side. But it's very risky, isn't it? It's hard not to do it. You'd be literally banking on him doing a hemi again, which it seems unlikely in terms of he's had an extra week. Short answer, he could go utterly mad.
He was obviously close last week, and they've just said, let's have the luxury of giving him an extra week. So it's unfortunate timing for the Bulldogs to get Cleary
certainly
back fully firing.
But I mean, he could go mental, couldn't he? That's
on the plus side for the Doggies, Viliami Kikau adds extended bench along with Josh Addo-Carr. Big Billy kicks. Christ, be good to see him out again before the end of the season, which chance this weekend.
Yeah, I think he's he must be close. I think he had the flu or something like that last week, which set him back. No. So I think his body was close, but then he got a bad flu, so that set him back. So he's had to get over that. So he's definitely close. Whether he starts or not, I don't know, but it would be great to see him back.
Even just string together a few games at the end of the season to start getting a few combinations going with Matty Burton on that left edge. So
Fox, I'd be surprised. I mean, I know he's a fast recoverer, but I thought his injury was meant to be 2 or 3 weeks, not one. So be surprised if Fox played. But again, they've named him, so
we'll see.
How effective will Kikau be, though? I've long thought this about players. He's been off for a long period of time. He's had the flu. He hasn't played any footy. If Penrith were relentless with the ball, he'd just be stuffed in 15 minutes, won't he?
He's a behemoth.
Is there not an opportunity to play 80 minutes in Reggie's or something, then bring him through, or is it just a bit of desperation stakes?
I don't think you play Reggie's. But if you look at our side, I think we need Viliami. Now, again, whether you could still take the approach, I guess, of saying if he's not 100%, why bring him back for this game? That would be a fair point. But
just match fitness, even though.
Yeah, but even if he plays 50 minutes, I don't know what they do with him.
He might play 30 minutes off the bench. I think that'd be more realistic.
Yeah. Look, I know he's a strong trainer and all that sort of stuff, so I just don't know where he's at. So
if he plays, I'd be shocked if he played more than 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about him as a buy and Supercoach.
No,
just a general rugby league question.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone would be keen to see him back, particularly Bulldog supporters. Yeah. But no one would want to rush him back.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth it.
Hopefully back to his best in 2 or 3 weeks anyway. Be good.
Yeah, he's like a new signing for the Bulldogs in some ways.
Yeah, exactly.
He's only played a couple of games, so... And he's a real leader of that team. So
nice. And circling back to the Sharkies, Matty Moylan dropped, Braden Trindle started. You mentioned that Teague Wilton is out. I haven't seen the severity of that, but it didn't look great after the game. Jesse Colquhoun, I believe you pronounce it, starts on the edge. Spy 216k, dual position, I think front row, second row. Provided he does start come game day, is he a cash-in option there with some point upside?
Yeah, I think so. If you're looking for cash, I really do think, though, that he's not going to be the left edge second row for the rest of the season. I think it's going to be, if Talakai's not going to be centres, I think he's going to get plenty of minutes there.
Surely Wade Graham.
Yeah, Wade Graham, Teague Wilton could be back. So you might just get stuck with someone coming off the bench scoring your 10.
Reeks of a nightmare, doesn't it?
So I'm not super keen, but look, if he holds that spot, it could go well.
Now, fellas, bit of a pod hunting special edition, this one. So how we're going to do this is we're going to go through your article from the SC Playbook website last week around true player ownership stats, breaking down the percentiles of players in each position. We're going to go through each position, have a very informal chat about the low ownership players that could be worth a flyer for the run home. When I say low ownership, what do we reckon? Anywhere from sub 20%, sub 15%?
Like, my thing is, if you're in the
sub 10?
Sub 10.
But even like the way I look at it, say you're looking at the top 10% or top 5% and you're looking to get into that top 1,000, if someone's owned by 40% of people, 60% don't own. I still think I think under 50 is still a pod. It's just not a mega pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start at the fullbacks. Again, so these stats are not updated as of the weekend, so they'll be slightly tinkered, but they'll be pretty bloody close to the mark. Clint Gutherson, very highly owned at fullback. Will Kennedy, a surprisingly high amount of owners at around about 25% among top-ranked teams. Reece Walsh is probably one to start at, fellas. And Walsh, at just above 600k, he's very cheap. We know what he can do. One that I was semi-keen on at the price, but a very difficult draw for the Broncos has put me off him, ads.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the draw in too much detail, but
Currently 3% owned among the top 1,000 ranked teams.
but geez, that's low ownership for a guy that was doing what he was doing earlier in the year, right? He's such a good player. Like, we saw him go so well at Origin. So to me, if he can do that at Origin level, he can do it in any matchup.
Especially in a good team like the Broncos.
Yeah, I just think between him and Latrell, you've got two absolute guns coming back that are owned by 3% and 0%. Like, take your pick. This probably comes down to who you can afford. But if you get one of them as a pod, that's pretty powerful pods.
Taking prices into consideration, which way would you lean out of Trell and Reece Walsh?
I would... Well, if it was taking price into... I'd have to have a look at the draw.
Because what Walsh is about 180k cheaper. Bunnies have a great draw, but they do have a bye. Broncos also have a bye, but a more difficult draw.
Yeah. And we're assuming people are going for overall here, not head-to-head.
Assuming overall, yes. Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's obviously you kind of say, Walsh is cheaper, do it. But equally, that means a lot of other teams are doing that. And then Latrell becomes even more of a pod. He's just a superstar.
I can answer this question very easily, boys. This is Latrell. He's got Brisbane this week, so I think you can afford to wait. You could also grab him. Don't mind either way.
Break even's about 140 as well. So
140, yeah. After that, leading into a round 26 bye, West Tigers, Cronulla Sharks, St George Dragons, Newcastle. Latrell goal kicking, fit and firing, we hope. Latrell for sure.
I am with you, Spy. Yep. I think Latrell is the answer there. And it poses a big question for owners of players like King Gutho and Scott Drinkwater who are on a tear. Do you make the move to him, as we said, particularly with trades running pretty low? The other one there is, look, I don't think you'd buy him, but the Roosters have quite a good draw too. I still have James Tedesco. I got rid of him earlier in the season, but got him back at one point. He's got a 5-round average of about 90-odd, I believe it is, and even he had one poor score in his last 5-6 games against the Raiders.
I don't mind him, boys.
Yeah.
Only could be a little pod play, Teddy. Freshen up after a weekend in Byron. Apparently not allowed to do that.
Roosters playing for their season.
Yeah, he looked pretty good Origin 3, just had a little bit of skip back, so I think that's encouraging. Also don't mind Reece Walsh. Whilst the draw's a little bit tricky, it's not disastrous by any means.
If you can't afford the Latrell, Reece Walsh is a pretty damn good alternative.
Yeah, but I'd nearly go Teddy over Walsh. I think it's close.
Yeah.
I think Teddy could finish strongly. Roosters, I mean, they could just really fall off a cliff, but Teddy just has such a crack. The other one, boys, I'll throw one more out. Yeah, he's about 49%, I think, but it's close. But I sold him last week, Jermaine Asako. I thought he was more owned than that. So still more than majority don't own him. He comes into the Doggies next week, Newcastle, Roosters, Tigers, 4 games running. I'm pretty scared having sold. I just did it because I was sort of forced into it a little bit. I don't mind him if you don't own him, or if you own him this week, I wouldn't sell him on the buy. I think you hold him for that run.
He's also dropped to 597k, so you're not getting...
You lose your value. There's obviously concerns. Ewan Aitken played right centre last week. He's not going to tip onto you.
Christ,
so that
he's got
hurts.
blue hands, doesn't he?
So I think that hurts a lot, but he still managed to have his runs. He kicks goals. So I still think he'll do a job, but you really want Branko Lee back for him.
I might be in the category of a slow learner here because I was never convinced that Asako was a Supercoach option from the start of the year. And so at the moment, I'm looking at him saying, when I see an opposition team have him, I reckon good. Hopefully, he stinks up like he did last week. What did he get last week?
He's got a 3-round average of about 48, I believe it was.
He's still got like 36 or 7 versus
3-round average
Penrith.
47.
And he saw no footy.
Yeah, he's a lot better than I thought he was at the start of the year. I'll give you that. But I'm happy to not have him as. I'm happy to be anti-potting him.
Agreed. Yeah, at his ownership.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And don't get me wrong, absolutely been burnt by him this season with a 74-point average, but he is starting to come back to the 3-round average 47, 5-round 55. By no means bad, but I don't mind the sell either. Spy, you're sort of against it.
I think if I still owned, I'd certainly hold for the Doggies match next week and see what happens after that. But in saying that, if I was choosing Teddy or Reece Walsh, I'd take them over Asako if I was choosing.
Anyone else there, boys? No. Moving on to CT Darwin. There's about 1,000 people on this chart. But boys, I'll start with one for you. And what we mentioned with that, I mean, we're looking here. Ruben Garrick, over 90% owned amongst top-ranked teams. Jermaine Sarko, over 60%. That may have dropped like a little bit last weekend. Ronaldo Mulitalo, holy Jesus Christ. What do you got scored? 9 and 13 or something the last 2 weeks?
It's been good.
Yeah. The one thing is that we were nearly all in it together, owned by over 80% of top-ranked teams. So Charles Nickel-Cookstad, far out. He's at 54% ownership, top 1,000, so very highly owned. Val's.
Do you want me to run you through Spies centres I've done today?
Sure.
It's like a new segment.
Yeah,
Spies centres.
Go.
Charles Nickel-Cookstad down to 45% now, so he's under 50. Warriors' run is phenomenal.
It is.
So I think he's a buy if you want to look at a pod there or a
Wait
semi-pod.
till they got the bye next week. So
After that, see if you got trades handy, sevens. But Isaac Tungo, 7% last I checked. He's flying. How good is he?
in a decent run for Penrith in a gun team.
Yeah, I think he'd be nice to own. Dallin Watane Zalesniak with that run after the bye at 4%. It's all going to that right edge.
Yeah.
Looking good there, I think, up your sleeve. Campbell Graham, 5%. Is he named this week?
Yeah, so Campbell Graham was
Yep.
one I was going to throw you.
Yeah.
He's the one that's very interesting because the Bunnies have a bye to come and they're such a popular Supercoach side, we can't overinvest in them. And I feel as though Campbell Graham's the one that people might avoid because they already own, like people looking at Latrell Mitchell in, Cody Walker, potentially Cam Murray.
Round 26 bye coming could make it tricky.
So Campbell Graham is a real genuine option there.
Bloody oath he is. Throw two more at you while we're going. Valentine Holmes is only 30-odd%. It's worth $800 squillion, but if you can find a way to do it, maybe you do. I'm not going to look to get him at that price, but he's playing good footy.
Val has broken me this season because people, when he had that slower start to the year, averaging about 60-odd, I stuck to it. I'm like, no, it's Val. Like, he's doing this effortlessly. Held him as long as I could through to round 13, and then he was missing 3 of 4 games at least through Origin, flipped him, and since that point he's averaged like 113.
Gone ballistic.
Yeah.
Absolutely ballistic.
I'm with you, Spy. I don't think I could pay up over 800k for him now. Ads, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. I think if you look at it and think he should be the one who's owned at 80 or 90%, not someone like Ronaldo and Manu and these guys.
It's just because he's had the awkward timing.
Everyone did
all the timing with the bicycle.
Everyone did what me and Tim did and sold him pre-Origin.
So those who kept him at 30%, it's actually such a nice pod for him. But yeah, I can't bring him in at those dollars versus bringing in the Latrell or.
I was so confident that that was the play, missing 3 of 4 games, Origin coming up, and then he went on to have I think his 4 best scores of the season, his next 4 games.
That's like one of 4 or 5 things this year that's happened. I was like, just didn't see this coming, and it happened, and I didn't own them.
Anyway, we need to put the tiny violins away and get people to stop. Need to be
Anyway,
a bit more positive.
I've got one more for you.
Yeah.
In the centres, before we move to the next position, your right centre, mate.
Oh,
Former right winger, Mr. Carraz.
Oh.
He based, when I say based with offloads and tackle bass last week, 72 in the centres. 13% ownership.
I thought he went really well in the centres.
450k. Mr. Jacob Carraz.
Doggies, though.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, he doesn't need to score points.
But
all I'm saying is
he can't do that every week, I don't
450k. You wouldn't get him this week versus Penrith, but...
Talakai 23% owned in top 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, jeez.
Boys, what was Isaac Tungo? That's the one that
He was
jumped at me.
like 7% or something.
Yeah, and obviously against the Bulldogs this
Could be a
week,
good
it's
week
a good
to get
matchup
on.
for him. He's just on fire, that bloke.
He is.
Anyone else, boys, that stands out at CT dub for you?
For me, the pod move is not making a trade and not going sideways with these guys. Like I feel like some of them are a bit sideways, and I actually think saving the trade might be the big pod move of the week. Not just in this position, but overall. But like Mulatalo could easily come out and get 100 one week just because they're 2 bad weeks, and we'll all over trade him out to get someone else in who could.
He's still averaging 61, Mulatalo.
Yeah,
Shows
we
what
brought
he's
him in for a
capable of.
reason, all of us. But
How big at this time of year is, as we saw with Tino, because trades are so slim, if you bring a bloke in, gets injured, and then you burn 2 trades for nothing kind of thing, it's like that's where it comes into Supercoach. Because earlier on in the year and mid-year, you can cover it, you make more trades, whatever. But this time of year, it can just be so detrimental.
And I haven't looked at it in detail, but I can imagine there's going to be some weeks towards the end when there's teams on a bye who maybe we've got 5 South players on our side and suddenly we go, shit, I'm struggling to put together 17
Yeah,
here.
correct. This is where
Definitely.
depth, in theory, through the back end of the year. The big thing about it is that and about depth, and as you mentioned, ads around the Bunnies, there are some really popular Supercoach teams with buys still to come. The Bunnies being number one. Parramatta have the buy, I believe, around 27. The Broncos, who people looking at Reece Walsh, Payne Haas, there might be a couple others in there.
Warriors have got a few. Warriors got quite a few own players.
Exactly. So these are weeks where you'll be down a lot of key players if you overinvest. So
look at the Warriors. The Warriors have got Chance, SJ,
AFB,
Tohu, Jackson Ford.
Heaps of them.
They've got a bunch of players who are very highly owned because of that origin period.
Yeah. So massive one there. Boys, 5'8". Now, Kalen Ponga, this was leading into last. So these stats came out, I think Friday you might have done them.
Yep.
So they would have been trades up to that point, yeah?
No, because I don't see any of the trades until after the round.
Okay, so leading to last weekend.
I think he'll be much higher owned. I think he'll be like 90% owned by the leading teams.
So that'd really explain my demise last weekend as the non-KP owner, or one of them. So KP hugely owned. Cody Walk still about 50%. I suspect that has probably dropped off. If Ponga's gone up, I know a lot of people were going Cody Walk to him last week, so he's probably dropped to that 35, 40-odd mark. That excites me because the reason why I didn't want KP was I'm like, I'm not getting rid of Cody Walker. And then I was looking at the prices and I was thinking Cam Munster last week was my target. So I got Cam Munster in, and Munster around at 20 to 25% ownership. So he's in decent pod range. But Cody Walk with that run to come, I'm so excited to own him. Boys, in that, Cameron Munster's an interesting one here because at around the 20% mark, a lot of people probably running a Kalen Ponga and even Cody Walker combination there. Is Cameron Munster a must-have or not?
Definitely not a must-have.
Yeah.
A nice to own. I got him a few weeks back, and Munster sort of does the same thing every year, doesn't he? Always scores pretty well base. Got the odd flattish game in him, which is like a 40 or 50. He's capable of tons, but you have to worry when you own Munster. You just put him in and he'll do a job for you around the 70-plus mark. And you sort of just want to hope he goes up to that 85, 90 to end the season. That's where he could be really beneficial. But no, for me, definitely not a must-own. I think other blokes like Cody, as you said, could be just as good, if not better.
He's a funny one. He's averaged over 70 the last 4 seasons, 69 back in 2019. Rarely goes big. So I don't feel like he hurts you, but very consistent. What do you reckon, Ads?
Yeah, I've got him, and I think the 2 weeks I've had him, he's averaged about 50. So it hasn't been exciting. And so I don't think he's a must-own because he's not one of those blokes where you think 1 week he's going to be the captain that you're worried about not having. Whereas KP last week against the Tigers, you looked at him and said, geez, I need him because he's a captain material, goal-kicking, attacking player against the Tigers. And I don't think Munster's ever going to be that. Cody Walker could be on a certain week.
I don't think it's the same. Munster can't score 140, 150. He just doesn't often do it. He often knocks out a 110 or something.
He has to have it in him. Like, you look at his...
No, he definitely does, but there's just...
I just don't think he's a captaincy option because there's not going to be a week we say... Because he's not a goal kicker, maybe, but... So I don't think he's a must-have, but he's a...
I agree.
He's not a trade out either if you got him.
All right. Kalen Ponga this week, 850k. Cameron Munster, 660. If you own neither of those, who are you getting?
So it's Kalen and who?
Kalen and Munster, 5'8".
Oh, definitely Ponga. Yeah.
At almost 200k more?
I think so, yeah. If you look at his run coming up, it's not working for me, but it's pretty bloody good, KP.
His goal kicking, he just looks unstoppable when he...
So
it has been against the Bulldogs and the Tigers.
The laptop's died.
Storm in Newey this weekend, and then Raiders down in Canberra the weekend after. Good games after that. Dolphins, Dogs, Bunnies, tough. Sharks, meh. Dragons. Good run, but is he worth... I don't think he's worth 200k more than Cameron Munster. I really don't. What do you reckon?
I brought him in last week because I thought that was the week to get him in. I'm not rubbing into you because then his price was going up so much. Yeah. His price was going to go up so much. I thought this week would be difficult to buy him in, which I think he is pretty expensive now. It's hard to bring in any player at 850, right? Because you probably have to move someone around to do it.
Especially when you look at...
Cleary, I think you find the ways to do it in his position.
We're looking at getting Cleary, Latrell, Mitchell, people getting Dave Fafita back. That 200k can do a lot of things for you.
But I think he's going to damage you not having him on the run home. Honest answer.
When he gets a head knock 5 minutes into the game.
Maybe.
So my thing would be, you look at your side and you say, who do I absolutely have to have? If it's Cleary and Fafita, for example... You work out how you're getting him, then check how many trades you got left and how much money then the answer might be, well, I can't afford Ponga.
Yeah.
Or unless you give up a Fafita or a Cleary. So it might just sort of tick its own box in that
Do
regard.
Melbourne have another buy? Sorry to interrupt you, mate.
They don't, mate, no.
So no buys for Melbourne, no buys from Newcastle.
But I just think, barring a head knock, which of course could happen, we know that, Ponga looks as good as I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
I'm anti-potting, so stuff is both.
Well, that'll make for a lively WhatsApp conversation amongst the
I wouldn't be as stressed this week against Melbourne, but like the Dolphins, Doggies, Sharks, Saints, terrifying.
A few home games.
Europe.
The Mad Dog. Cody Walker is going to hit 150s, and anyone who sold him is going to regret it.
No, I said have both.
Yeah. Mad Dog's going to do it. Boys, halfbacks. Nicho Hines, 100% ownership. Sean Johnson, he's at about 40% ownership. Nathan Cleary, people are going to be flocking to this week. Spy, let's talk about it now. Nicho Hines. Can you antipod him? Because Sean Johnson has something like, he's at 4 tons in his last 6 games, has 1 outlier in that time. He scored really poorly against the Bunnies. That was in that torrential rain game in NZ. Put a line through it. Scrap that game. Can you sell Nicho Hines as the ultimate antipod play? Because he's 100% owned amongst top-ranked teams, and run an SJ and Nathan Cleary combination.
Well, as we stand, I am.
Jesus.
Do you know why I am, though? A, because this season's just been whack. B,
nothing to lose.
B, I don't have much to lose. Yeah. My only issue is I still want to hunt down you and Clem. So, like, I don't want that to cost me that. So, and 4 is I'm the biggest SJ fan in the world. And I'm like, you know what? It's been a tough old Supercoach
Possum
year.
might have something to say about that, mate.
I'll have him.
Nah, actually, he's committed to Bunty.
He's Warriors.
He's committed to Bunty, so you can't have both.
I love SJ so much. I'm like, why don't I just, it's been a tough year, why don't I ride him home? Let's just do it, see what happens. He's on foot, he's gone 127, 119, 112, 20, which does concern me because it was wet, but it's still 20.
Yep.
Their draw is so
that
good
helps.
too. Their draw is...
Yep.
How about
I'm getting to it.
The bye next week?
Well,
Plays a game less than Nicho.
He does, but Nicho's got Penrith. Doesn't overly concern me. Full strength Penrith. Like, I'll still be nice.
No, that's fair.
But I'd be happy to play like a Tohu Harris type on your bench instead anyway. He also scored 75 when nothing went his way. It was crazy. The week before, you probably didn't see it in Europe. And then 135, he dropped an intercept just before he went off with 7 to go. If he caught it, he was so close. Would have been 165. Which is crazy. Then he plays Canberra, Titans, West Tigers, Manly, St George, Dolphins. I'm like, do we just jump aboard the SJ train?
So you're talking...
Keep on board.
Are you committed to this?
Well, so far I am. But
otherwise it's a big talk without...
I'll get to my next point.
It's a lot of talk.
It's very strong talk. I don't think you can sell Hines.
I'm not doing it either.
Bearing in mind, obviously, I own SJ. I'll give you the other upside is I've only got 6 trades left, right? If I sell SJ...
That's significant.
If I keep SJ... sell Hines instead of going SJ straight to Cleary, it frees up 240k, which means I can go something like a Billy Smith to Latrell, which is huge, and keep 4 trades in hand. Otherwise, I go down to 3.
Billy Smith to Latrell's a big upgrade.
Yeah, or a Blake Wilson next week to Latrell. Yeah. I can do it. Hines against top. I have a crazy stat. I looked tonight. Nicho Hines has only played 5 games this year against a current top 8 side. What a run for the Sharkies. I know he missed a couple of games.
It gets
early.
difficult for the Sharks.
It does. He averaged 69.4 in those games. He's worth 960k. He's got Penrith and South coming up. He also plays, though, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Manly, Canberra. So, like, there's still games. Yeah. But there's also not games where no, he does Titans and Newcastle and stuff. So it depends how they're tracking. So it's going to be a worry not owning him. But at the same time, for 250k less, can SJ go close to him?
Well, can I put it a different way? Like, I think so you've got SJ and Hines.
Yep.
You can make an argument that trading either of them to Cleary is a sideways move and just burning a trade.
Are you saying just don't get
own? Well, because if Cleary's... like, SJ's got a great draw, Hines is a great player, like... There's no guarantee that Cleary's going to outscore them.
You know, the ultimate dagger.
Whereas I've got Jerome Hughes that I'm going to turn into Cleary, which
I
think that is an obvious upgrade.
It makes it easy.
Yeah, and so I don't... you could say just keep what you've got and not take it Cleary and save the trade.
You know what my biggest dilemma in that is?
this
the
week.
Dogs this
Yeah.
Sunday. If it
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
the
fair
Dogs this Sunday, I'd think I'd do that.
But do Penrith have a bye as well coming up?
They don't.
No, they don't. I'll tell you the other thing, though. Like, coming back from a hammy injury, does he go off after 60 if they put a score on him? I mean, he's probably on a lot.
Typically, when Penrith, they just don't like doing it. Sometimes,
They don't, yeah.
I've seen him come off with like 75 into it, but
And they also rest him the extra week. I don't think Ivan would have it in him to sit him, to bring him off early.
yeah. So I think I'd just prefer to own and captain Nath this week. Use that one trade, free up that money. I'd rather own Nath than Hines. I appreciate what you're saying for sure. And if they played, Brisbane this week, I'd happily do that.
Yeah.
But and just sit on my heels for a bit. But
This week could be a week where if you don't have him and you don't captain him.
And you know what? He's probably a semi-pod this week as well. Like, if he's 4% owned or 0% owned, as he would be at the moment, or 2%.
I reckon he's going to be close to 80% owned by the time
It'd be
you
interesting.
get through the week. I haven't looked at the early trades, but
You're probably right.
anyone who's serious would be.
But it's still 20-30% of people that don't own and won't captain him. So it's like that can still make a fair difference. So, I mean, talk to me, boys. I don't know what the thoughts are, but it all sort of goes on that little bit of, I love SJ. It's been a shit year. Why don't I just ride him
We've
home?
already spoken to you, mate. We said get Cleary in and hold Nico. But you do you.
Okay.
Or sell Kalen to him.
No, the only way I can do it is
Just flip Kalen.
sell one of them.
Boys, 2RF, very congested at the top here. Jaman Hopgood, Joe Tarpany, obviously being dual. Even Jacob Preston's at 54%. Britton Nickera, Tohu Harris. 4 of those 5 blokes, not including Preston, are all at sort of 85 plus ownership. Really big numbers, of course. Joe Tarpany, Tohu Harris, a lot will be running them up there. Dave Fafita is at about 50 to 60% ownership. That'll, again, after this week, probably closer to 80% ownership. Johnny Bateman, surprisingly, at about 60%. I can't believe that many people jumped on. So there is a lot of pod opportunity here because of those high-loan players, but also at this time of year, it's probably not the position to go it. The one that has come to my attention and has been on my radar quite legitimately since round 12, Cameron Murray. He's currently the 21st most traded in player this week. I flicked a tweet out about 20 minutes before this episode, so he's probably going to be about the 41st most traded in after people saw that with my form.
It's a terrible idea, actually.
Isn't he like 482k or
He's
something?
482k.
So you can downgrade a Jackson
That's
Ford
what I
or a
mean.
John
Like, you
Bateman.
can free up cash by getting Cameron Murray, who could very easily be top 3 scoring 2RS by the end of the season.
I would love to find a way to bring him in because he's such a super coach.
I'll run you my scenario then, boys. I'm desperate to own Murray at that price.
Yeah.
It's just too good to pass up.
I thought he'd be like top 5 most traded in.
I self-admit I did not foresee how many guns would go down this year who I'd have to sell then bring back.
Yeah.
And it really hurt my trade plans. I'm so far under what I normally am right now, which hurts. Would you go, once I get in Cleary and Latrell, which I'm looking at doing, I'll have 4 trades left. Would you go to 3 in order to go Ronnie Mulatalo down to Cam Murray, bang in 1, and stay with 3 but have Murray in your side?
How stacked is your CT dub? Who would be your 3 benchies?
It's a bit skinny. That's probably why I
don't
can't do
do
it.
In
Yeah.
that case.
Yeah.
Especially
that would make it skinny.
If that's skinny, then your 2RS is probably pretty stacked as well.
It's probably too stacked. I think it's just one of the ones I'm like, bugger. I don't think I can do it.
So my issue with it is that Bunnies buy in, what are they, around 25 or something? So I own Munro, Alex Johnston, Cody Walker, and then I'm going to get Latrell in.
You could have 5.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And if you add in possible injuries and stuff.
Actually, I think it's around 26.
It is.
And I could flip one of the Bunnies players that week. Save a trade, flip one of them to get it down to 1.
The other question is he going to be incredible to own on the run home, or is he going to be really solid and average you 60 and then you go, oh, it's good, but was it really worth the trade? I mean, he hasn't run as much this year.
There's a reason he's 482k.
Exactly.
But
yeah, I think he's going to...
But I think post-Origin and with the draw, I think he's pretty attractive. But I think my issue is the same as Spies, which is I just need to look very carefully at my centres to make sure I'm not going to have a problem in 3 weeks' time when sometimes on a bye or if I get one injury and I'm screwed there. So I'll have to be careful.
In saying all that, I'll tell you my centres. Joey Manu, Alex Johnson, Greg Marju, Mulatalo. I've got Billy Smith, and Munro, who I really rate Munro, but he's hurt. I need to know he's playing. And I've got Blakey Wilson, just my downgrade
you can't
there.
do it.
I would be flipping Connolly Lemuelu as that backup centre, though, who's still starting back row, doing pretty good things.
But then there's risk of him going to the bench any week.
Yeah,
so
I think I just missed Cam this year,
yeah,
sadly.
I think his break-even's about 13. It can wait a week. He'll earn a bit. I've got Brendan P. there who got that 87 on the week, and he'll earn some cash. So I'll potentially, even in a couple of weeks, hopefully P. not outscores him as such, but generates a bit more cash in that time. Maybe even look to make that one. But, regardless. Boys, we'll get through the next two quite quickly. Front row forward picks itself. Payne Haas, Joe Tarpany, Tohu Harris, Tino Zassell, Adam Fonua-Blake, Corey Hallsborough, the big dogs. I wouldn't steer too clear of that.
Ruben Cotter, just a little sneaky one. He's really cheap if you need him, but and the other thing with Cotter, Cowboys out of the 8, sitting in 9th position. They'll get decent minutes in. Yeah, I think it could be okay.
Hooker. Can you... Harry granted about 70% ownership. That's only going to rise this week. Can you anti-pod him? I don't think so.
I don't have him, and it's hurting me.
Yeah.
And I because I want to bring in Cleary this week. I can't bring in Harry this week. No, I can't do both. So it's hurting.
Mm.
The Knights middle's pretty ordinary as well. Like, could do some damage through there.
Yeah, I think if you've got Damien Cook and say Sonny Luke on the bench, and you kind of like, do I go Cook to Harry? That's something you maybe don't do if you're really low on trades and you run with Cook. I think you do a good job coming home. I think Bunnies, they're sitting 8 or 9. They need to be good. So, but I mean, Harry's still got some potentially semi-low scores in him. I think Cook might not be that far off him. If you already own Cook
and Sonny, I am fine. You've got to go Sonny to Harry.
You've got that other buy. Sorry for the Bunnies. You'd need to play Sonny again, so that's where Harry...
I don't envy... I'm pretty light on in the front row at the moment, and I'm feeling a bit of the pinch. I do not envy anyone running with Sonny Luke, because, geez, that must be nerves at hooker.
He knocked out 31 in 10 minutes on the weekend as my AE.
That try assist is updated for him.
With 11 minutes left, he wasn't on yet, and my AE was 70. I'm like, don't bring him on. And then he runs on. I'm like...
Yeah.
Just quickly, my thoughts around Origin guys are... This is where I'm really confident in them just steaming home. All of them have that week off, most of them. If you've got Origin guys like Munster, all these fellas, I think this is where they hit their straps.
Yeah, for sure.
They always come back these last 8 weeks and suddenly look so much better than everyone else.
This is when you want them.
Yeah.
Paddy and George, Mortgage Choice SCW guys. Normally, I mentioned their expertise, I should say, around refinancing, first home buying, debt consolidation, those aspects of their work. Their passion, though, seen this in the flesh. Their biggest service is offering education to people around financial wellbeing. They're putting this into practice as well by starting their own podcast, going live on Spotify this Thursday. Dare I say it, something that Paddy was born to do. That man can talk underwater. In a nutshell, if you ever say at school, you wondered why you learned about Pythagoras theorem, those sorts of things, you'd never use it in life, but not how to lodge a tax return. This podcast is for you. The basics around finance that can help you in life, something super, super beneficial. They're short, sharp, snappy podcasts. They do a lot of interviews with, accountants, small business owners, financial planners, and make it concise and as interesting as they can. To stay in touch with that and stay in tune, follow TTY_the podcast on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or like them on Apple, Spotify. To get the ball rolling for this week only, they've got a competition via their Instagram, their normal Instagram handle at patandgeorge_SCW. Guess the correct score for the Manly v Sharks game to win a $100 gold class movie voucher. I'll tag that in the post on Instagram so you can get onto that one. Free crack at that. Remember as well that if you're getting in touch with them, mention SC Playbook to save $120 on a free consult. Boys, we've pretty well touched on our hot topics for the night, going through all those players. But if there were any that we missed there, you know what? I dead set don't reckon we would have. Sean Lane is one that I was going to mention alongside Cameron Murray. So Lane, as far as pods go, back to starting after having a really disrupted season thus far. 494k. He averaged 69 last year, but from memory, that was like earlier on in the year, he wasn't an 80-minute player. When he did become an 80, he averaged significantly higher than that. Spy, I know you love him. Back to 80 minutes, dirt cheap. Pod for the run home. Again, someone that can free up cash.
I prefer Murray. Just looking at Lane at the moment, he's not quite what he was, or he's not even close to what he was actually at the moment. Not saying he might get back there, but by the time he does, it might be too late. Injuries have hurt him this year. As someone who loves Sean Lane and would have started the year with him, I'm not really looking at him over someone like a Murray at this stage. I want to see a performance first. Dylan Brown back could help when he comes back.
Dylan Brown back will definitely help, but Cam Murray's the man of those two at the same price. Most traded out, though. Number 2, Ronaldo Mulitalo, break-even 147. Sharkies have a really tough run home. I know we've spoken a little bit about him, but what are you thinking, Ads? Flip Mulitalo or hold?
To be honest, I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm probably would lean towards holding just because I'm not worried about the break-even. If I'm holding for the rest of the year. Doesn't matter, yeah. And I just worry that any trade sideways, and at the moment I don't want to make sideways trades. I want to upgrade people, and I'm not certain that if I was trading him someone, it's an upgrade. Just because the last 2 weeks.
Like he's down to 524k. So like if you could go sideways price-wise to Greg Marju or Valentine Holmes or Isaac Tungo, sweet, but you're paying up a lot for them.
No, like you'd be going sideways to like a Jacob Carraz, and you pick up 40k, but I'm not certain that Jacob's going to outscore Mulitalo. So I just...
He won't score 9 though. That's the thing.
But no, Jacob.
But you also don't have to play him in your CT up. You do because you lied on.
I do too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's the 525 just means he's not sellable.
If you have a look at his draw, it's not ideal. Manly this week is seemingly okay, but new combinations, no Moylan, new centres and the like. Then he has Penrith and South straight away. It's not ideal. He comes back to the Titans, which is good. Gold Coast maybe, Knights, Canberra. So maybe that last month, if they found some combinations again, he could be pretty handy. My scenario would be I could go Mulitalo to Latrell this week. But I wouldn't mind maybe just having a little look at Latrell, let him drop in some price, and maybe instead of selling Ronnie, sell a Billy Smith next week for 100k less and just have Ronnie. I'd probably rather have played Ronnie than Billy, but like it's a tough hold after a 19 and a 9.
It's funny because I'm happy to hold on to him and just play him in the softer games and not play him in the more difficult weekends.
Yep.
But then, like in your boy situation where you have to play him, it's like, well, you don't really want to have to play him, so you think sell, but then you already lied on for CT dubs, so you can't really afford to sell. So it's a tricky.
And if I knew Munro was coming back,
you're trying to make us feel bad, but you don't have Callum Ponga.
I'm just trying to make me feel good.
Yeah. If I knew Munro,
so you don't have him.
Who?
Ronnie. Oh, no, you do have him.
I've got Ronnie.
You've got depth at centre. Sorry.
Yeah. No, he contributed well for me on the last 2 weeks.
Billy Smith plays the Titans this weekend. I'm reasonably happy to play him. He looked, I don't know if you saw the game on the weekend, but he got a lot of good footy with Cleary.
Saw a heck of a lot of footy overseas.
Yeah, nice. Double NRL watch.
Dangerous amount.
And
shout
then,
out to the Watch NRL.
How good is it?
Bloody
magic.
It wasn't so good when I got up at 5:30 on my birthday to watch Bulldogs Knights.
Oh dear.
That was a rough start at my birthday. I mean, the app works seamlessly, but it was that was a tough start to a day.
So you're saying it's not the app's fault, but it was a tough morning.
And then after that, I went to the Day 5 of Lords, and I watched Ben Stokes starting to smash us around. I thought, I'm cursed.
Yeah.
Ben Stokes is about to win, and thankfully...
Worst birthday of all time.
What an innings to see. Wow. I was going to say, if I knew Munro was coming back next week for sure, I'm happy to play him the next month, and it doesn't worry me as much. But if he's hurt, I'm a bit skinny.
Boys, lucky last, number 8th most traded out, Clint Gutherson, 905k. Now, my initial reaction to this was, no way. Gutho's averaging 79 in terrific form, low on trades teams. Why would you do that? The further I looked into it, 905k, top dollar, Parramatta's draw. Cowboys, Storm, Dragons, Broncos, Roosters, Panthers, round 27 bye. That is very difficult. Plus round 27 bye where a lot of teams already own a lot of Parramatta players as is. If there's restings round 27, I think sell.
See ya, Clint.
Yeah. Mate, I've got him. Neither of you got him, have you?
No.
Nah.
So I've got him. And so you're telling me I can save money going him to Latrell?
Yeah, it's crazy. I do it for sure.
The one thing you can do with Latrell he's got about a 140 break even as well, and Brisbane and first came back from injury, because they're both going to likely drop a similar sort of price.
You can wait a week.
You can wait a week if you want.
Well, I can't do it this week anyway, actually. Now I just realised it, because I've got to free up cash to bring in Cleary. So I need to find some cash.
Yeah, and that...
More cash than...
Yeah, but a Gutho to Latrell trade next week might help facilitate the Harry Grant move a little bit.
Yeah, no, next week, yeah.
So, yes, I think he's a reluctant sell. If you are strapped for trades, well, maybe you've got to hold him. Boys, SC Playbook podcast has partnered with BetR this season, producing markets of our own. Last week, when I say last week, I mean about 3 weeks ago, the last time we had a market, Nicho Hines into Will Kennedy, $3.50. Nicho was about 75 plus fantasy points. Kennedy, end-time try scorer. That absolutely walked in. The Sharkies put a clinic on that game. This week, Nathan Cleary on return, 80 plus official fantasy NRL points into a Brian To'o try at $3. The only book you'll find offering fantasy NRL markets. Link to that market will be in our YouTube description or across our social channels tomorrow. If interested, please use those links as it lets BetR know that we sent you. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghoponline.org.au. Boys, round 21 trades and skippers before we wrap it up with a few questions. Spy, I'll start with you, mate. What are your trades and skippers for the week?
Just a bit sad over here, thinking about having to maybe sell SJ. Bugger it. I'm keeping him. Let's have a crack.
Holding SJ.
Holding SJ. Captain Nath, of course.
So is that then your Hines to Cleary is the trade?
So, trades first.
Yeah.
Hines to Cleary.
Yeah.
Free up 140 odd. Cronulla in free fall.
With one loss.
And Mulitalo, I don't really know what to do. I'm sort of thinking I'll just go straight to Latrell. Taruva back down to the centres. Yeah, I might wait a week on that. I'm just haven't decided yet. But if I don't sell Ronnie now, I'm not selling him next week.
Pretty much, yeah. Because then he's sub 500k. And
so maybe I'll just run a Billy Smith play and then hold Ronnie this week. I'm a bit torn on that one, but we will see, boys. It's a tough few days ahead. I can see it already. Might just have to put the foot down.
Yes.
Nate Skipper, VC, Fafita, Saturday, Arvo.
Yeah. Ads?
I actually haven't looked at it in detail, but I'm going Hughes to Cleary, but I think I need to get a couple of 100k to do it. So it'll probably be someone like Tafare to a 200k or maybe even that Sharks player at 216k. I've got Munro, yeah. So I've just got to free up a couple of 100k and I want to do it with either Tafare or Harry Edwards. One of those guys will go to free up the cash. Just got to work out who.
So would you'd need more than the Gutho to Latrell?
Yeah.
That's a bugger. Yeah. That'd be gold.
Yeah. I need 200, I think. But I have to get Cleary in, and Cleary will be the captain, obviously.
VC? Haven't had a look.
Don't even...
Won't matter.
It won't matter. Because
what would your VC have to score this week?
There's 70 players this week playing. Yeah.
What's the VC have to score?
If Fafita rocked out 100 and... I've got Sonny Luke, so that doesn't help, but you'd probably have to go 140 plus to consider it. And I'd see I'd have to drop 140 plus minimum, but I think either way I'm just rolling Nath this week.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters.
I'm going Mitchy Moses to Nathan Cleary. Will likely be my only trade. Skipper will be Cleary, VC, James Tedesco against the Titans. And I'd need 140 to 150. I don't have any duds as such in my team. So I don't have you Sonny Luke. I don't think I have any bench players even. I've got Madison, who I'm hoping will benefit with RCG gone for 3 weeks and get a few extra minutes.
He was one of my back row pods, actually. Maddo,
yeah.
Pretty
so I think while he hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, brought him in for that round 19 coverage, but hoping he benefits with RCG out. A few questions then, we'll wrap it up. And we'll start, they're both those questions to start actually, but... a question spy from Brofessional. Best strategy for head-to-head coaches for the run home. Next week on the podcast, and we'll get an article up online as well, we'll do head-to-head specific chat, finals planning, who has the best runs, that sort of stuff. We'll get that sorted. But yeah, just a general strategy for head-to-head coaches, and probably around trades.
I think 2 targets for me. One is do what you can to lock in a second chance in your thing. So whether that's top 2, top 4, every league's different. Very handy to get that. But
most would be running, the majority would be running off a top 8 system though, standard NRL finals, yeah?
I think there's a few different ones.
Yeah. Right.
The one I'm in, I think, is top 5, so yeah. Check your settings there. I think if you can get that second chance, very handy, but I don't think it's more important than having a solid team and a couple of trades up your sleeve. I think come head-to-head finals, prelim, grand final, if you're going to win the comp, it could be a case of having a couple of extra trades that you could use now up your sleeve to make a move. People might have buys. Yeah.
And just looking at what round your semi-finals and finals are in and who's on the bye.
Yeah.
I think that's the other big one, right? You don't want to be sitting there with a bunch of South players and they're all out.
A South round
final
26 because that's grand final week.
Yeah.
So
But
I think
equally,
probably,
you don't want the same thing the week before either because then you won't make the grand final. So.
but I wouldn't load up too much on the South if I'm in head to head
No.
and your grand finals round 26.
And I think the Broncos are one of the other teams around that time. Maybe they're the week before or the week before that. So
Yeah.
So if I'm South,
And then para round 27 for anyone who has a grand final set round 27.
maybe, yeah.
I'm
Maybe-
like, even when I was looking at Cam Murray trading into my bunnies, I was like, I'm obviously so overall focused, but I'm like, well, if I am in grand final that week or prelim final sort of thing, I'm like, I don't follow head-to-head closely, but I also don't want to throw it
If
by
you're in
having
it, you like
five
to
bunnies
win.
players. Yeah.
I do think if you roll,
it'd be a nice consolation.
Yeah.
Oh no, but just, seriously, like
Yeah.
we're not going to win overall, but
I think if you roll 4 or 5 bunnies into round 26 with their draw, Tigers, Sharks, Saints, Newcastle, that gets you to the grand final. If you've got a couple of trades up your sleeve then to go from 4 or 5 to 2 or 3, then you can win your grand final with that. So I still think Souths are important to get you there.
Yeah.
I mean, just be aware you might have to sell a couple. That's where trades come in.
Yeah, I had I've got a run of about 6 or 7 years on the trot, being top 1%. So that's generally the goal going into the season, or the goal's to win it. But as you sort of slip a bit further back, it's all right. Let's get the top 1%. And sitting at sort of 3,000, I'm like, cool. Peak for the run home, very confident. Last week just went
Out the window.
Out the window, please. just work to do. Question, another Hills one. Supercoach Fanatics, absolute legends there. Go give them a follow on Twitter and Facebook. Great group there to be amongst. Lads had Cardi, Bryce Carrot since day one. Probably the revelation of the season. Now over 600k. Time to upgrade to Haas. Spy, what do you reckon?
Bloody oath. Yeah, Cardi's going well, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
can't believe he's 600k. I haven't paid attention
Mate,
that
he's
closely.
been
But if
exceptional.
if you've held to this point, and first of all, that's a remarkable effort, and I'd be leaving the party and
Cash in.
Cash out, go home while you still can.
Question
Get a good night's sleep and
from
enjoy the benefits.
Owen Williams, Adam Fonua-Blake or Payne Haas as a trade in at front row? Adam.
I've got neither of them. I'd love either of them. So I'd say, wow, what a luxury to be contemplating it. Yeah. I would say Haas just because I know they've got to buy as well, don't they? So they've both got to buy. I think either of them. I'd really just comes down to who's going to score a try. AFB's playing so well.
Yeah.
And it's got a good draw.
Spy, I think Payne Haas. So Haas is averaging 74 this season. He's scored 1 try and set up 1 try. There he's owned these real sort of major attacking stats. Not that, as I always say, you don't expect them with front rowers, but basically scratching the surface. Like the ceiling is there to just Jags one here or Jags an assist there. We know he can do it. Adam Fonua-Blake, tremendous form, but has scored a lot of tries. Not to say that can't continue, but Haas is basically doing what AFB is doing without the tries. So I reckon Payne Haas is the man.
I'm Payne Haas.
In fact, I confidently would go with Payne Haas.
They're averaging like the same. Fonua-Blake's got 6 tries, 3 try assists, and he may well keep that up, but you don't have to worry about it with Payne.
Yeah.
He scores it anyway.
And then if he does jag for tries and assists, he averages 90 in that time or 100. Question from Zach Cloggan. Is Cleary or Fafita a bigger trade target this week? Cleary the big break even. Fafita I think is pretty mellowed out. Can't get both. Adam, who would you go with?
Cleary.
Nath.
Cleary lock and load. And to wrap it up, Jay, do I play Tarpany or Tohu? Will Tohu play limited minutes again this weekend, Spy? He only played about 35-40 odd on the weekend. It was a bit of an odd one. And
clearly got a spell.
Yeah, just because they had the gap.
He did come off really early though as well.
And then he came back on late for a brief stint.
Yeah, and then I think he went back off because they were winning so easy. So my guess would be he's probably back to regular minutes, but the worry is you're guessing, so why not just play Tarpany, who you know is going to do his thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, boys, let's wrap it up for NRL Supercoach Round 21, the SC Playbook podcast. Spy, thank you, mate.
Thanks, gang. So before we go, am I mad to keep SJ or can I do it?
Don't second guess yourself.
I don't think you're mad. I don't think it's mad. He's got such a good draw.
I'm only doing it because I love him, though.
Mate,
don't know if that's a good reason.
The last time I remember you talking about a player like this was Dallin. You didn't go with your gut and it cost you a lot. He's been a fire since.
Every time you make a bold call and it comes off, you sit here the next week and you say, why didn't I just back myself? Just back yourself.
Yeah, if it was the same logic as normal, I would not hesitate.
You're not entirely mad, no.
If you're in the
That's
top
all I want
100,
to hear. Yep.
If you're in the top 100, I would say I don't know that that's the
Wise
antipod
move.
to be going for to win it. You respectfully, you're not in the top 100.
I have
so
to beat.
It doesn't really.
You know,
matter,
it's
mate.
equally as important. I have to beat Clem.
beat us.
I have to beat Clem as well.
Yeah.
Clem is also Sydney bound in coming weeks, so
Yeah,
she'll
we'll
be
get her
back
on.
before season's end.
That's my decision. Yeah.
Spy's not going to sleep until Friday. That brings me joy. Ads, cheers, mate.
Thank you, man. Go the Dogs.
Go the Dogs.
Go the
Cheers,
doggies.
guys, and thanks for tuning in.